So you guys have learned how to find areas of triangles, of parallelograms, and of trapezoids. So now we're going to find areas of composite shapes. The word composite means it's composed of or combined with different shapes. So if you look at each of these shapes here, they are made up of either triangles, parallelograms, or trapezoids. Okay? So let's look at this first one. Now this first one, there's two ways to solve this first one. Okay, you can either say, oh, this shape is made up of two trapezoids, because you can see there's one trapezoid up here. Remember, a trapezoid is a four-sided shape with only one set of parallel lines, so these would be the two bases. And then, of course, there's another trapezoid on this side, right? So you can say, oh, this shape is made up of two trapezoids. So if I figure out the area of each trapezoid, which they look like they're the same trapezoid, but if I figure out the area of both these trapezoids, I just have to combine it, and that would give me the area of this whole thing. Another way you can look at it is you can actually slice it this way, right? If you slice it this way, this shape is made up of a triangle and a rectangle. So either way works. So I'm going to actually do the two trapezoids for this one. So let's say for this one there are two trapezoids. So when you're doing area of composite shapes, the first thing I want you to do is write down the two shapes that you see in your composite shape. So in this case, I see two trapezoids. And what am I going to do with my two trapezoids? Am I going to subtract them, add them? I'm going to combine them to get the full shape. So it's going to be trapezoid plus trapezoid. So I like to write down the two shapes that I see. Then I'm going to write down the formula that I'm going to use. Since it's trapezoid, the two formulas I'm going to use is half base 1 plus base 2 times the height, and then same thing on this side, half base 1 plus base 2 times the height, right? Next, after I write the formula, I'm going to plug in what I know. So what are the two bases? If you look, the two bases are, remember, your bases are your parallel lines in your trapezoid. So these two are the parallel lines, right? And I know this is 8, but what is this? Well, if you look, this is 5 on this side, so it's got to be 5 on that side. So my base is 5 and 8, okay, for that trapezoid. So it's going to be half of 5 plus 8 times the height. What is the height of my trapezoid? Now, a lot of kids will put 6 because they see the 6 here, but 6 is for this entire side. The height of the trapezoid is only this much here, right? And it looks like it would be half of 6, which is 3. So my height would be 3 yards. So the height is 3 yards. And then I'm not going to solve it yet. I'm going to have to do the other side. And the other side is exactly the same. The base is 5, the 5 and 8, and the height is 3, right? So I'm going to do the same thing on this side. 5 plus 8 times 3. And then I'm going to solve it. Got to do what's in the parentheses first. 5 plus 8 is 13, so that's half of 13 times 3. And same thing on this side. Half of 13 times 3. And then I can either take half of 13 and then multiply it by 3, or do 13 times 3 and then take half, whichever. So I'm going to go ahead and do 13 times 3. That's 39. So half of 39 plus, same thing on this side, half of 39, right? And then half of 39 is, let's see, 19.5, right? 19.5. So then this would be 19.5 plus 19.5. And so my final answer, the area, would equal 39. 39 yards squared, right? Now, I'm going to do it the other way, and still the area should be the same. So the other way I'm going to do it is, I'm going to say, well, instead of seeing two trapezoids, I can divide it this way, and I actually see a triangle and a rectangle, right? So instead of doing this way, I can do triangle and rectangle. If I do that way, I'm going to put that my two shapes are triangle plus rectangle, okay? And then I'm going to write the formulas down. For triangle, it's half of base times height. For a rectangle, it's just base times height. Then I'm going to fill in my formula. So what is the base and the height of the triangle? Well, the base of the triangle is this line right here, which is 6, because I know this is 6, this is 6. So the base is 6. What is the height of my triangle? I don't know the height. But I do know this whole thing is 8, and this part's 5, so this part must be 3, because the 3 plus the 5 has to equal 8, the whole thing, right? So the height of my triangle is 3. So then it's half of 6 times 3. And then on this side, the base and the height of my rectangle is 6 and 5. So 6 times 5. So I've plugged everything in. Now I can start solving. Okay, I can do half of 6 and then times 3. Half of 6 is 3 and then times 3 is 9. Or I can do 6 times 3, which is 18, and take half, which is still 9. So this would be 9. And 6 times 5 is 30. Right? And then I just combine the two areas. The triangle, the area of the triangle is 9. The area of the rectangle is 30. So then the area of the whole thing is 39 yards squared. So you can see I got the same answer. Right? So there are two ways you could do that one. Okay, let's look at the next one. Okay, this shape I see, now you could split it like this and have two trapezoids, all right? Or you can put it in the dotted line and you can see you have a rectangle, but then you've got the triangle taken out of the rectangle. So I'm gonna do it that way instead. So this one, I see two shapes. I see a rectangle and I see a triangle inside. Am I gonna add the rectangle plus the triangle? No, because I'm taking the triangle out because I only want this shaded part, right? So it's going to be rectangle minus the triangle. I'm going to find the area of the entire rectangle. I'm going to find the area of the triangle and take it out. And then what I'm left with is this shaded part, right? What's the formula for rectangle? Base times height. I always write down my formulas first. And then the formula I'm going to use for triangle is half of base times height. Then I plug in what I know. So for rectangle, I know the base is 15 and the height is 6. So it's 15 times 6. For the triangle, it's half of the base. Now for the triangle, I'm going to turn this way. The base I know is 6 because of this line 6. This line is also 6, so it's 6 meters. And the height of my triangle, you can see it's out here, is 7 because you can see from here to here, it's 7. So the height is 7, right? So my base is 6 and my height is 7. All right, I've plugged everything in. Now I solve. So I'm going to solve the area of the rectangle. 15 times 6 is 90. I'm going to solve the area of the triangle. I can do 6 times 7 and then take half, or take half of 6 and then times 7. I'm going to go ahead and take half of 6, which is 3, and then 3 times 7 is 21. Okay? And then 90 minus 21 would give us 69. So the area is equal to 69 meters squared. That's what would be left over in the shaded part right here. If I take the rectangle minus the triangle, that leaves me with the shaded part. All right, last composite shape. This looks like an arrow, but you can actually cut this arrow into a triangle and a square because I can see 20 by 20. It's a square, right? All the sides of a square are the same. So this time I'm going to do triangle plus square. Formula for triangle is half of base times height. Formula for square is base times height, same thing as a rectangle or a parallelogram. Okay. Plug in the numbers you know. So this is half of, what's the base of my triangle? Well, let's see. This is 9, and this dotted line is going to be the same thing as 20. So this is 20. So the whole base would be 9 plus 20 plus 9. 9 plus 9 is 18, and then plus the 20 is 38. So the base is 38, and the height of my triangle would be this height right here, same thing, right? So it's 30. That's the height. And then for the square, it's 20 times 20. Okay? So I've plugged in everything into my formula. Now I'm going to start solving. I'm going to go ahead and do half of 38, which is 19, right? So half of 38 is 19, and so then that'll be 19 times 30 on that side. And then I can actually go ahead and solve 20 and 20. 20 times 20 is 400. And then 19 times 30, well, 19 times 3 is 57, and then I just add a 0. So 19 times 30 is 570, and then plus the 400, right? And then 570 plus 400 is 970. So the area is equal to 970 centimeters squared. So that would be, the, hard to box it when you're holding the phone with one hand. All right, so that would be 970 centimeters squared. So this is how we find the area of composite shapes. You just have to break them up into the shapes you already know, which are triangles, parallelograms, and trapezoids. And then you have to think, am I adding the shapes together or am I subtracting, right? And I would take the time to write down the formulas, plug in the numbers, and then solve. Because a lot of kids, this is not hard, but a lot of kids want to do several steps at once and they always make careless mistakes and then get the wrong answer. So it's best to write down the formula you're going to use, plug in the numbers, and then start solving. Okay?